Geronimo Stilton, The Phoenix of Destiny, read by Hosea Tong Ho. Hello, my mouse friends. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. Yep, it's really me, your friend from New Mouse City. You probably already know that I run the Rollins Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. But I'm more than just a newspaper mouse. Let me tell you some facts about myself before we get started. Number 1, I live at 8 Mouseford Lane and I love being home. Number 2, I work at 17 Swiss Cheese Centre at the Rollins Gazette. Number 3, I'm a scaredy mouse. I'm not sporty or adventurous at all. Number 4, I still go out for exciting, fur-raising adventures in a place called the Kingdom of Fantasy. Now let me begin my story. The afternoon when everything started, I was at home trying out a new recipe for enormous chewy extra chocolate chip cookies. Yum. As I prepared the cookie dough, my telephone rang. I grabbed the phone, still clutching my wooden spoon, while dripping the chocolate everywhere. What a mess. Still, Geronimo Stilton speaking. Stilton here, I snapped. I heard my grandfather yelling at the receiver. Grandson, remember that you were due to write another Kingdom Fantasy book. It must be an amazing adventure, he screamed. Oh, why was he always screaming? I nodded, even though he couldn't see me, and squeaked. Yes, I know, another fantasy adventure. But before I could continue, Grandfather interrupted me. No, not just another fantasy adventure, he thundered. This one needs to be extra special. It needs to be a super adventurous, super scary, and super fun. It needs to be epic. Now get started. I'll call you in a few hours to make sure you're not slacking off. I sighed and hung up on the phone. I knew I had to get to work. Otherwise, Grandfather William would never leave me alone. Grandfather William was a very, very stubborn mouse. Still, I decided to have a tasted cookie or two to give me inspiration. 10 minutes later, my cookies were done. I made myself a cup of tea and put some warm cookies on a plate. Then I sat in my favorite porch chair in front of a cozy fire. How relaxing. I wasn't really in a good mood to write, but I knew I had to get cracking. Grandfather William would be calling me, demanding to know what my ideas were for the extra special book. I took my notebook and my pen and began scribbling away. Let's see. Cheese, bananas, toilet paper, pizza bagels. Oops, I was accidentally writing a shopping list. I refocused and before I knew it, hours had gone by. As I stared at the blaze in the fireplace, I noticed something strange. The flames looked like eyes in the dark. Suddenly, I realized those eyes belonged to the fantastical creature, the Phoenix of Destiny. The Phoenix jumped out of the fireplace, surrounding a cloud of sparks. Holy cheese, what was a fantastical creature like the Phoenix of Destiny doing in my living room? I pinched my fur to make sure I wasn't dreaming. Nope, I was definitely awake. I stared at the Phoenix. Her beak was the purest gold, her eyes were glittering emerald green, and she had the most amazing, thick, flaming red feathers. Yup, the Phoenix really was a spectacular bird. Of course, this wasn't the first time I'd seen the Phoenix. I had met her during my first trip to the Kingdom Fantasy. She helped me escape the Queen Cackle, the terrifying queen of the witches. Talk about a bad memory. Hello again. So what brings you to New Mouse City? Just flying by? Looking for a late night snack? I squeaked hopefully. Don't get me wrong. It was great seeing the Phoenix and all, but every time I got one of those visits from someone from the Kingdom Fantasy, it usually meant I was on for another frightening adventure. Did I mention I'm a scaredy mouse? On cue, the bird answered, Are you ready for another long and scary adventure, Geronimo Stilton? I gulped. Well, you see, the Phoenix interrupted me. You don't have to answer me now, but you have to come with me, right away. She has given me an order, the bird chirped. She? Yes, she, the one and only Blossom, the queen of the fairies, the Phoenix proclaimed. Cheese and crackers. I was a nervous wreck, but I could never say no to the Queen Blossom. If she needed my help, I was prepared to give it. Talking about deep breath, I climbed onto the bird's back. She flapped her wings and dove into the fireplace, up onto the chimney, and out into the night sky. It was a good thing the Phoenix had magical powers, or I would have become a mouse toast. After about 3,000 hours, I was able to relax. Did I mention I was afraid of heights? I peered into the night sky. The moon shone brightly above the mozzarella and the stars twinkled. Ah, what a beautiful sight. Just then, I thought of something I'd been meaning to ask the Phoenix. I was wondering, I began, why did Blossom's call come when I was awake this time, instead of when I was sleeping? The red bird smiled and explained that since I had visited the that since I had visited the Kingdom of Fantasy so many times, I was now considered to be a gold standard Kingdom of Fantasy traveler. Apparently, that meant that I could go to the kingdom anytime, night or day. Sweet Swiss cheese. I felt so special. I was still contemplating how special I was when Phoenix interrupted my thoughts. You know, Sir Knight, she said, this time your trip in the Kingdom of Fantasy will be more difficult, more mysterious, more adventurous, more exhausting, and way more dangerous than ever before. Maybe special wasn't exactly the word I was looking for. In fact, I was looking for the word terrified. I tried to ask so many more questions, but the phoenix wouldn't say a peep. We flew on in silence until she whispered, "Be careful, Knight. Lots of things have changed in the Kingdom of Fantasy." I figured the phoenix would be flying me straight to Blossom's castle, but instead she gently deposited me on a cloud. "Knight, I must leave you," she explained. "I have an urgent appointment with a friend of yours. He needs one of my feathers to finish writing a very important work. Well, that's another story. Anyway, I'm going to leave you on this cloud, and you'll be picked up by another fantastical creature." Another creature? I blinked. What if it's scary? What if it is mean? What if it had 6 heads and they were all staring at me? Still, I didn't want the phoenix to think I was a nervous rat, so I waved goodbye. "Be careful," the bird called before she left. Soon a beautiful dragoness, as white as snow, wearing a glittering jewel-studded crown, arrived. Her eyes were as blue as cornflowers, and when she spoke, her voice was as sweet as honey. "Welcome, Knight," she said. A minute later, she was flying towards Crystal Castle. This dragon had a car seat contraption on her back, and she was quite comfy. Not that I'm an expert on dragon seats. But on my previous trips to the Kingdom of Fantasy, I had spent a decent amount of time on the back of my friend of the Dragon of the Rainbow. I always felt like I was going to fly off his back. As if reading my thoughts, the dragon said, "I know you're used to the Dragon of Rainbow, Knight, but allow me to introduce myself. I'm Jess, the Jeweled Dragoness. I'm the winner of the Dragon High Flying Championship, and I specialize in thrilling landings." Suddenly, Crystal came before us, sparkling in the bright moonlight like 1,000 diamonds. Jess headed towards the rooftop where I spotted the landing strip. At the castle, there was the great Fantasian alphabet. Can you translate it? A uniformed dragon signaled to us, roaring from the control tower to approach the dragoness. "Prepare for landing. Reduce your speed. Land in the center of the landing strip, and do not breathe fire." A split second later, Jess began a nightmarish nosedive and a series of twists and turns so terrifying my skin turned a sickly shade of green. Great chunks of cheddar! In the end, Jess made a perfect landing. Absolutely amazing. Roaring all the dragons. Jess smoothed her wings and shrugged up the compliments. "Oh, it was nothing. Just a little trick I picked up at the Dragon Academy." Meanwhile, my stomach was still flipping flops, my tail was drooping with my fur, which was as green as a lizard. I knew I'd suffer from seasickness, but who'd ever heard of dragon sickness? A tall, pale fairy with fiery red hair arrived. She had a pointy nose, thin lips, and an evil expression. "I'm Nefavia, the new advisor to the queen. Follow me," she instructed, waving her wand. So much for small talk. I raced through her maze of crystal, halls, and stairs into the rooms which we reached the ceremony room. It was filled with tons of different types of creatures from around the Kingdom of Fantasy. There were giants, flower fairies, water nymphs, unicorns, gnomes, and even strange creatures who appeared on behalf of the roster and half-snake. I followed a path of rose petals until I saw the queen. Queen Blossom sat on a crystal throne waiting for me. How strange. Usually Blossom comes to meet me with open arms. Even stranger, she didn't say one word. She just stared at me in silence. Had her ankle twisted, lost her voice, woken up on the wrong side of the crystal bed? Finally, the queen looked at me with a strange expression and announced, in a strange voice, I order you to listen to me without interrupting." How strange. Blossom had never given me orders in the past. I noticed that she was surrounded by a group of fairies with purple hair and pointed hats. Several of them had black roses in their hands. They were dark fairies, the queen's strange new court. I was dying to ask them what was going on about her new court, but just then she shouted, "People of the kingdom of fantasy, hear ye, hear ye. I, Queen Blossom, order the knight to go in search of the sweet dreams cradle, which is kept in Munchie Valley by the Munchie wizards." A gasp erupted from the crowd. "Not Munchie Valley. Those wizards are pure evil. He'll never make it back alive." I was stuck by carving his tombstone and find a nice spot in the cemetery for the hero. I turned as white as a ball of mozzarella. How did I get myself into such a scary situation? One night, do you refuse to obey Blossom's demand? Her words echoed through the enormous room. What could I do? Everyone was waiting for me. Well, I guess if you want me to, I can try, I mumbled. After all, I didn't want to disappoint Blossom. She had always been so kind to me. Then I remembered something. By the way, I asked, who will be my guide on this dangerous mission? You will have no guide, she snorted. I was shocked. But what will I have at least armor to defend myself? No armor, the queen answered. Why did I plead? Can I at least have a map to the valley of the Munchie Wizards? Blossom rolled her eyes. I took that to mean no map. What a nightmare. I excused myself, trying to burst out into uncontrollable sobs. Blossom left, followed by the dark fairies. It was a cold, odd sight. The queen's eyes seemed cold as the strange dark fairies. I could hear the crowd murmuring, poor Knight. The queen was so mean to him. Yup, my dear friends, Blossom had definitely changed since the last time I saw her. But I definitely had to believe that she was still the same person deep inside, and I couldn't disappoint her. Even though I didn't have guide, armor, or map, I had an idea. I would ask my friends from my previous trips to the Kingdom of Fantasy to help me. First I looked for Chatterclaws, who was at the port swimming with his family. He would wave excitedly. I'm so wachamachilik, happy to see you, he cried. Then he whispered, I hate to tell you, but Hoosie Watsy, the queen, has forbidden me to come with you, but I want to give you this thingy-majiggy. I think it will be useful. He rummaged into his shell and offered me a compass. After I left Shadowclaws, I found some of my other friends. I hoped they might be able to accompany me, but they were all forbidden. Still, each one gave me something special. Bose gave me some candy, Factual gave me berry juice, Wool gave me a supply of scrolls, and Honor gave me a bottle of ink. Lastly, I decided to ask Scribblehopper, my frog friend, for my first Kingdom of Fantasy trip. His house looked like a water lily and floated in the center of a pond. When I hit the doorbell, it croaked, rivet. The door opened and Scribblehopper peeked. Hi, old friend. How are you? I was wondering, I began. Right then, he reached out and grabbed me by the tie. Huh? I knew the frog liked old-fashioned, but did he have to steal my favorite tie? Before I could protest, he yanked me inside. I can help you, but we must be careful. There are spies everywhere. Scribblehopper croaked. Then he gave me a warm hug. I looked around the frog's house. It had a view of the croaky marsh and a bed shaped like a lily pad. On the walls were pictures of Scribblehopper's ancestors. There was even a picture of Grandmother Wardy. First and foremost, we must have a snack, Scribblehopper insisted, bustling around his kitchen. A minute later, he whipped up a fly and gnat sandwich and sludge-filled smoothies. Try this, Knight, he said. I shook my head, trying not to gag. Suit yourself, the frog croaked, chomping away. I'm actually here to ask you if you can help me find the Sweet Dreams Cradle, I explained. Scribblehopper croaked. The queen has forbidden me to come with you, Sir Geronimo, but I have something to help you. He pulled out an enormous book. Do you remember when I told you I wanted to write a book? Well, I finally wrote it. It's a complete guide to the Kingdom of Fantasy. I titled it A Legendarium. I have another surprise, Scribblehopper continued. He knocked on the little door. Sweetheart, the knight is here, he called. The door opened and a young and fascinating frog with green skin and flaming red hair came out. She was wearing a fancy red gown with lots of lace and gold crown on her head. She smiled at me and croaked. Do you recognize me, Mike? I stared at her, confused. Something about the frog seemed familiar, but I just couldn't place my paw on it. She held up a scarlet feather and winked. I gasped. It was a feather from the Phoenix of Destiny. The scarlet hoppers twirled in a circle and sang. The scarlet hopper's secret. Scribblehopper's daughter is a frog, but she can transform into a phoenix. She met Sir Geronimo on his first trip to the Kingdom of Fantasy, when he helped her flee from Cackle, the queen of the witches. Ah yes, it was all coming back to me. On my first journey to the Kingdom of Fantasy, Scribblehopper had told me a secret. His daughter had been transformed into a red phoenix. Meets Scarthopper, Knight. She's my darling daughter, explained Scribblehopper. We managed to break part of the spell that turned her into a phoenix, so now she has become a frog sometimes. For years, Scar has been flying all over the Kingdom of Fantasy and reporting back to me. Thanks to her, I was able to write about all my mysterious places in the Kingdom of Fantasy in the book The Legendarium. I wrote the book with one of my Scarlet's magical feathers on paper which was made from rare flower petals. Scribblehopper held on the heavy book. proudly. This is Night. This is my precious legendarium. I'm telling you, it must, it may just save your life. Please don't lose it. It's my only copy. I thanked Scribblehopper for the legendarium. The information on it was great. The only thing that was not on it that was great was that it weighed a ton. I practically broke my nail lifting it. Besides, the book the frog insisted I'd need some other supplies. We will find them in a shop that belongs to the cousin of the uncle of the wife of the son of the girlfriend of the barber of my auntie Croaky's plumber. It's called Scarpa's Stealthy Stuff, and it's not in the not-so-great neighborhood at the edge of the enchanted city, he explained. We lived in the cold night air. As we walked, I looked around. Squeak! What a nasty place! My whiskers trembled with fright. There were mean four-eyed wolves, sniffling me hungrily. There were foxes that were scruffy fur, glaring at me suspiciously. There were owls who hooted gloomily. There were creepy gnomes, carrying mushrooms that looked deadly. There were fairies who looked like witches, ducking down alleyways. There were bug-eyed bats. There were hidden wolves, and there were ghostly knights. After about 10,579 years, we arrived at a spooky shop with bars on the windows. The sign read, Scarpa's Stealthy Stuff. Scribblehopper pushed me forward with my heart pounding. I went through the door. Inside the store was a dimly lit room. It was packed with tons of almost old stuff, kind of old stuff, and really old stuff. I saw scrolls that had grown yellow over time, bolts and bottles, chipped plates, frameless paintings, flea-ridden cloths, and lots of other junk. A thin rodent with dark fur approached us. He had a scar on his right cheek and a black patch over one eye. He wore a sailor's coat and stained, puffy shirt. He was Scarpa. Welcome to my store, mister. What is your name? Said the rat. Scribblehopper hopped before me, placing a bag of coins on the counter. Scar, we are here on a private matter. No names, understand? He croaked. Scarpa quickly snatched the coins. Certainly, he agreed. What can I do for you? First, we need the armor of the mouse, Scribblehopper began. Scarpa brought us to the secret room and showed us the golden armor. It looked valuable at glance, but it was just tin that had been spray painted gold. When we grumbled in disappointment, Scar snorted. What do you expect at that price? Scribblehopper sighed. Well, okay. I also need a bodyguard to accompany the mouse all the way to the Munchie Valley. Scarpa's eyes opened wide. Well, at least one of his eyes flew open. I couldn't tell about the other one since he was wearing that patch. Now I understand why you're being so mysterious, Froggy. I'm guessing your friend here might just be the knight the Queen called to. He stopped mid-sentence when Scribblehopper shot him a look. Gotcha, Greenie. Mum's the word, and don't worry, I've got just a bodyguard for you. With that, he turned towards the back of the shop and shrieked, Teeny's sugar snout, get your tail over here. An enormous rat with a telescope around his neck arrived in the back room. He was chewing with what was like a piece of taffy, more candidly spilled out his pockets. He was so big, he smashed his head against the door frame. He whined. Seriously, you hit your head again? Scarpa snorted. Then he turned to us. Meet my nephew, Teeny. He will be the mouse's bodyguard to Munchie Valley. Teeny blinked. Munchie Valley? But uncle, that place is dangerous, he complained. Then he felt my muscles. This mouse is puny, he added. Of course he's puny. That's why I need a bodyguard, Scarpa shrieked. I put on the armor made of cheap tin. I felt, well, it was made of cheap tin. Oh, where can you find a good suit of armor these days? Don't worry, Teeny. We'll bring you back alive or dead. Scarpa assured me. My knees rattled with fright. I prefer alive, I squeaked. Of course, the rat replied. But if you croak, I've got a beautiful old coffin you might like. I tried to squeak a response, but instead I fainted. When I came to, Scarpa was yelling at Scribblehopper. Frog, don't think we're done here. The money you gave me isn't enough to pay your bill. Scribblehopper explained that the gold he had used was his entire life savings. Oh, cry me a river, the rat scoffed. Then he pointed to Scribblehopper's beautiful red jacket with gold buttons. If you give me that coat, I'll settle the bill, he proposed. At first, I thought Scribblehopper was going to hop home, but then he removed his jacket. Tears sprang to his eyes. I remembered that he had once told me that jacket had been in his family for generations. It's okay, Knight, he croaked. Everything will be fine. Maybe you will come back alive or dead, or maybe with just a chopped off tail, or ear, or paw. Just thinking about the scary adventure ahead of me made me want to find the nearest dragon and fly out of here. But before I could move, Scribblehopper wrapped me in a slimy hug. What could I do? I thanked him for being a true friend, and I told him I was sorry about his coat. It's okay, the frog sniffed. but I could tell that the waterworks were about to start again. The jacket was inherited from my great-great-great-grandfather. The red silk came from the islands from the scarlet worms, and it was stitched from a golden needle by my ancestor, the tailor, Skizzer Hopper. The scribble hopper went off into a dark night, and I was left with Teeny to go off in a search of the sweet dreams cradle. It was going to be a dangerous trip, and the night was freezing. Rats, I was feeling more terrified by the minute. Still, the memory of the sacrifice that my friend had made for me warmed my heart. Leafed through the legendarium and found a lot of information about the mysterious places in the Kingdom of Fantasy. Scribble Hopper was right. That book was a chock full. I found out a giant map in the Kingdom of Fantasy and finally located Munchie Valley, my destination. I started walking, but it wasn't easy. Every time I took a pause step, my cheap armor creaked, clanked and rattled. It felt like my whole body was in prison. Things went from bad to worse, and I tripped and bashed into Teeny. He fell to the ground. Wah! I twisted my ankle. I can't walk. Poor big rat. Teeny sure was a crybaby, but I was stuck with him now, and I couldn't give up now. Thinking fast, I built out a wheelbarrow out of some branches, and Teeny climbed in it. I pushed him forward, huffing and puffing. It turns out Munchie Valley was full of traps. We fell into a trapdoor and many, many other traps. We found a bottle labeled the sweetest scent ever, but when we tried, it was stunk like sour milk. We passed by a lever marked surprise. I tried to stop Teeny, had enough surprises to last a lifetime, but he pulled the lever anyway. We were hit with an avalanche of rocks. Finally, at dusk, I saw a castle that was made entirely of cookies. This was it. Munchie Castle of the Munchie Wizards. Munchie Castle looked good enough to eat. Who can resist a tasty cookie? Still, I knew better than to take even one nibble. There were threatening signs posted everywhere. I was hoping Teeny would stick around, but right then he announced, "Well, I'm out of here. I delivered you to the castle, and my job is done." Rats, trembling with fear, I clunked over to a bush near the front door. How would I get inside? Right at that moment, the door bursted open. Grilla, on one of the Munchie Wizards, was shoving another wizard dressed like a cook out the door. "Where'd you learn how to cook, Puke Pastry University?" Grilla shrieked. "These cookies you made almost killed the queen. Didn't you notice the edges weren't golden brown, the way she liked them?" The cook rolled his eyes. "Golden brown, crunchy, chewy, 5 chips on this one, 10 walnuts on that one. How can anyone remember all those ridiculous rules? Forget the cookie wizard. That queen is just a plain cuckoo." She fumed as I watched. The cook ripped off her apron and hat and threw them on the ground and stormed off. As soon as the door closed, I came up with an idea. I would dress myself up as a cook and sneak into the castle. I picked up the hat and apron that the cook had left on the ground, and I stuffed my clothes with leaves, so I would be as big as the Munchie Wizards. Finally, I used straw to weave a wig, and a muddy stick to make eyelashes, and I stained my lips with blackberries to look like lipstick. I gathered my courage and knocked on the door. "Go away, I'm not interested," a voice yelled from inside. It is Geronimosa. I'm here to apply for my cooking job," I squeaked in my best lady voice. The door bursted open and Grilla shrieked. "That was fast. I never even advertised. Why don't you stand there? Come in. I'm taking you straight to Cookie. Just don't say anything stupid. She's in a terrible mood." I tried to smile, but I was so nervous I chewed my whiskers instead. Grilla let me down a dark hallway right to the Wizard Queen. "Cookie!" She was all dressed in black and was carrying a strange object that was half fork, half spoon. I recognized it from the legendarium. It was a Wandinator, the magic wand she used to burn everyone who was annoying her. Greasy's blonde hair poked out of Cookie's pointed black hat, and her dress was streaked with chocolate. Her teeth were full of cavities. Something told me Cookie's last trip to the dentist had been some time between never and never. "Hello, I'm Geronimosa," I began, but Cookie held up her hand. "Enough of chit-chat, Cook. Can't you see I'm starving here? Go to the kitchen and make me a batch of cookies, and they better be good or I'll burn you with the Wandinator." "Your wish is my command," I told Cookie. I bowed my head low, and that's when I spotted it. Cookie was wearing a bejeweled gold pendant around her neck. It was the treasure I was looking for, the Sweet Dreams Cradle. I read about it in the legendarium. Cookie left it and went in search of the kitchen. The Sweet Dreams Cradle. The Sweet Dreams Cradle is made of gold and decorated with giant pearl, a blue sapphire, and a green emerald. It produces a song that makes everyone sleep soundly. It is said that the cradle is the work of the famous gemologist Marvin McDreamy, who specializes in enchanted jewelry. McDreamy made it for himself because he suffered from insomnia. The Wizard Queen Cookie stole it to help her own insomnia. But the castle was so enormous, I got lost in a maze of hallways, all made out of cookies. In the kitchen, I started scampering around like the super energetic cooking show host Rachel Rat. I racked my brains trying to remember the recipe I'd been trying at home for extra chewy, extra chocolatey chip cookies. Had I used dark chocolate or milk chocolate? 1 cup of sugar or 2? I experimented all day in the evening. I took the cookies out of the oven. Cookie sniffed the cookies and muttered, Then she put a cookie in her mouth and muttered, Then she swallowed the cookie and muttered, What did it mean? Just when I thought I would faint from fear, Cookie's face lit up and she shrieked, Delicious! She ate a few more cookies. Not bad, Geronimo Misa. Here's your reward. She handed me a golden box. These are munchy sweets. They're so yummy, we wizards use them as money, she said. Then she went off to bed. I waited until all the munchy wizards went to sleep. Then I climbed up a thorny vine leading to Cookie's bedroom window. Cookie was climbing under the covers. A minute later, she tugged the emerald on the cradle and it began playing soothing music. Cookie yawned and placed the cradle on the nightstand. Then she began to snore. This was it. The perfect time to get my paws on the cradle. I yanked the shifts over my ears so I wouldn't hear the music and fell asleep. Then I opened the window and scampered over to Cookie's nightstand. I grabbed the cradle. Success! Clutching the cradle, I headed towards the window on my tippy toes. But right at that moment, I tripped on the carpet and fell head first on the floor. Bouncy rat hairs. It woke up Cookie and she started yelling, Hey, who stole my cradle? When I catch who did it, I'll burn her to a crisp. Then she began to throw everything she could find at me, but even her heavy chamber pot. I was climbing down the vine as fast as I could until disaster struck. Cookie took a giant pair of scissors and cut the vine, and I fell. As soon as I hit the ground, I ran to the bushes where I found Teeny hiding. I was thrilled. I guess the big lug hadn't left me after all. I put my armor back on and went off at full speed. The munchy wizards raced after us with flying forks, shooting lightning from their wands. Suddenly, I got an idea. Magnetic Mountain was nearby. It was an enormous mountain, so it would attract metal. We headed in that direction, and all the wizards followed us. Then their flying forks were pulled towards the mountain. The rat tricked us, whined the wizards. While they were still dazed, Teeny and I hightailed it all the way back to Enchanted City. Once there, I realized something strange. Teeny's ankle was better. When I mentioned it, the big rat blushed. Sorry, Knight. I wasn't really hurt, just tired. And the wheelbarrow you made was so comfy, he confessed. Guess the wizards weren't the only ones who were tricked. Still, as my Aunt Sweetfoot says, true friends should forgive. So I smiled at Teeny and gave him the box of munchy chewies. Thanks, Teeny exclaimed. And here's a present for you, Knight. He handed me a telescope. Waving goodbye to my friend, I headed towards Crystal Castle, whispering and whistling happily. I was feeling proud. My mission was accomplished. But when I reached Blossom, a dark fairy ripped the cradle out of my paws, and the leader of the Knights of the Dark Tower glared at me. Instead of thanking me, Blossom said, Knight, you must leave once again. This time, bring me the essence of darkness, held in Beltandia by the tribe of stinky bats. I was stunned, but I thought, I babbled. Leave at once, the queen ordered, pointing to the door. Big Head, the leader of the knights, grabbed me by the tail and dragged me away. All the knights of the Dark Tower laughed at me as I passed. Ha, that fake armor is ridiculous. The sword is made of tinfoil. He's not even a knight, he's a nightmare. I scampered away from him with my tail between my paws. How humiliating. When I left Crystal Castle, it was evening. I sat on a rock, feeling sad. But what could I do? I had to get going on my next mission. I studied the Legendarium, trying to figure out how to get to Beltandia. I wondered if I had the strength to make it. I was feeling so tired. Eventually, the sun set. I could no longer read the Legendarium. At that moment, I heard a small voice. What's with that sad face, Golden Knight? It's not gold. It's just a tin that has been painted gold. and I'm feeling lonely. I found myself answering. You are not alone, I listened. I am listening to you, Knight, replied the voice, and I'm listening. I heard another little voice shout, and then a chorus of voices sang, We're listening. Moldy mozzarella, what was happening? Why was I hearing voices? Had I gone batting a reading about the Baltandia? I was still trying to figure out when I saw them fireflies. A whole swarm of twinkling fireflies shrouded towards me. This is a solution to every problem, Knight. You just need to find it, the fireflies told me, and they sang a little song. I have to say, the fireflies song really cheered me up, and I was even happier when, after I explained that I was going to Baltandia, one firefly came forward. She wore a small golden crown and spoke in a sweet voice. I am Queen Twinkle. Do hereby declare that we will accompany you on your mission. And after that, the entire swarm of fireflies got together and formed a soft bed for me to lie on. Then they carried me straight to Baltandia. When I woke up, I wish I hadn't. I had been dreaming of something about cheesecake, the beach, and a 12-piece simple orchestra. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes, I woke up and I found I was in a dreary Baltandia. The fireflies brought me to the black house maze where the stinky bats lived. I have to find the essence of darkness, I told Twinkie, but how will I get it away from the stinky bats? Flashy, the queen's niece, spoke up. I've got it, she blinked. We offer the bats something they can't resist. Blinky stink bug slushies. They'll get the slushies in exchange for the essence of darkness. Now that's using your blinker, I praised the queen. And the queen divided the fireflies into two teams. One team was to fly north and to buy pink stink bug syrup, and the other team was to go south to buy ice. Twinkle opened a chest full of tiny golden coins, the treasure of fireflies. I felt bad that the fireflies were spending the savings, but the queen waved me off. What are friends for? She said. After the fireflies left, I headed into the blackout maze. It was a total blackout. I couldn't see a thing. Plus, the entrance was so narrow, I had stripped down to my underwear to get through. The maze stunk like a cat's litter box, and the whole place was swarming with stink bugs. I kept turning and turning until I reached an enormous cavern. Over a raging bonfire sat a huge pot of boiling liquid. Thousands of black bats flew around. They were pushing through the darkness. So this was how they made the darkness of essence. As they flew, the bats sang. And do you know what's worse than a stinky bat? A stinky bat who cannot tune. And I thought I was tone deaf. Grand Poobah Bat, the king of the stinky bats, sat on a bat throne surrounded by a cloud of stink bugs. Some of the stinky bats were thumping on drums. Others blew into the screeching horns. Still, others were dancing around and waving clubs. Between the noise and the smell, I was beginning to feel faint. Taking a deep breath, I stood up and squeaked, hello, I'm Sir Geronimo of Stilton, and in the name of Queen Blossom, I... But before I could finish my sentence, one of the stinky bats bonked me over the head with his club. Youch! And then I really did faint. When I came to, I was tied up to two bats, which were carrying me towards a bat which looked like a chief's hat. This wasn't going well. Voodoo Bat, the one with the chef's hat, was carrying a large serving fork. Yum, mouse meat, he cried. I think I'll cook him with some poisonous mushrooms. Cave mold, flies spread, crushed larvae and termite ragu, stuffed scorpions, mosquito sauce, gnat mustard, moss salsa, gelatin, beetle meatballs, insect preserves, and fresh ants. Yes, this will do. I gasped in horror. Oh, had it come to this? This? I had to do something fast. Wait, I begged. I have a proposal I think you would like. Luckily, the Grand Poobah Bat held up his wings to stop the others. Okay, we are listening, he screeched. I quickly explained to the bats that if they would give me the essence of darkness, I would make them each a delicious, frosty, pink stink bug slushie. Eep, the bats cheered. We love these slushies. Right then, the fireflies arrived, carrying the pink stink bug syrup and the ice-perfect timing. As the bats watched, I began to whip up the pink slushies, following a secret recipe. I took the ice and mashed it with a rock and crushed it. Then I poured the pink stink bug syrup over and mixed it together. All the bats got in line and held up their wooden cups for me to fill. Then they slurped up into the slushies with little spoons, and they looked like bones. In exchange for the slushies, the Grand Poobah Bat gave me a box filled of black dust. It was the mysterious essence of darkness. Besides the essence of darkness, the stinky bugs also gave me a suit of armor made out of bark. Thank goodness. I had left my old armor at the entrance of the black maze, and after all, I'm a modest mouse. I would have been too humiliated to walk around in that underwear. Once again, I climbed onto my bed of fireflies and we left. As we flew, I used my telescope to look at all the many lands beneath me. The Kingdom Fantasy is such an enormous place. I guess that's why every time I visit, I have a completely new adventure. Strangely, as I looked around, I had a funny feeling that someone was following me. Finally, we landed at Crystal Castle. As I entered, I still had a funny feeling that someone was following me. Blossom was shocked to see me. You returned this time too? But how did you manage to escape the stinky bats? They're so dangerous, and they could have cut you into bits, she snapped. I tried to explain that the fireflies and the suit of armor and the pink stink bug slushies, but she didn't seem interested. Whatever, she said, grabbing the box containing the essence of darkness. Then she threw me an icy look and ordered, since you made it back alive, for your next mission, you will go to the Fang County, the home of the vile vampires, in search of the crystal coffin. I tried to get a grip, but I couldn't keep myself pale. I turned as pale as a skeleton, as stiff as a mummy, and as shaky as a leaf in the wind. But I couldn't say no to Blossom. I nodded and left the castle. When I got outside, I fainted from the fright. When I woke up, someone was fanning air at me. I muttered, "Huh? Who are you? Who am I? Why am I dressed in bark?" In front of me, I saw a bat. The bat smiled kindly and explained who he was. "Don't be afraid, Knight. I'm the son of the king of the stinky bats. I won't hurt you." Only then did I recognize him. It was a stinky bat who had been off on his own at the stinky bat's cave. "I followed you here, Knight, because I want to help you on your mission. My name is Spitfire Bat, and this is my story. I'm the son of the Granny Pooh Power Bat, the king of the stinky bats. I wear a ruby ring and necklace as a symbol of our tribe. My dad taught me to dance and play drums. But I don't like to dance. I don't like drums, and I can't stand the stink. I left the tribe so I could help others and finally be myself. So anyway, Knight, can I come with you on your heroic mission?" the bat concluded. I shook my head. "I can't bring you along," I told the bat. "I'm going to this very dangerous place in the Fang County, the home of the vile vampires." At the word vampires, Spitfire's ears perked up. "But that's perfect. In the county of vampires, you'll need to pretend that you're a vampire too, and a bat assistant will come in handy." I had to admit that he was right, so I agreed. But first, Spitfire insisted I need a good vampire disguise. He led me to a store called the Phony Factory. The store was full of all sorts of costumes, and there were wigs and wings and masked dummies. Everything looked so real, it was hard to tell what was fake. An old woman with a very long nose jumped out at us. "Hello, I am Leapy Longnoser. Welcome to the Phony Factory." "I'm looking for," I began, but before I could explain about the vampire costume, Leafy Longnoser began running around the shop hurling costumes at me. "How about a flower fairy dress?" It came with a rose crown and magic wand. "Or what about a miner gnome costume with the fake beard pickaxe and the barrel of gold?" she offered. I shook my head. "I'm looking for I tried again. Leapy kept on jabbering away. "You might like the swamp monster suit, complete with dripping slime." She held up a thistle pixie costume next. "I like this one, but it's a little itchy." "Or what about a Merlin the magician tunic? The one gives off shooting sparks," she guessed. I was beginning to think we would never get out of there when Spitfire yelled, "Ma'am, we're in a big rush. All my friend needs is a vampire disguise. Now please hurry." Leapy huffed. "Well, why didn't you say so? You need to speak up for yourself, Mouse," she scolded, pulling out a costume. "Try this one," she said. It's my best vampire." I powdered my face to look paler. I put on a wig and some fakey point teeth. I sprayed some cologne called Nightmare's Night and put on a three-piece suit and a velvet cape. I put on a vial of fake blood in my pocket. Then I looked at myself in the mirror. Eek, I looked like a real vampire. Spitfire put on tiny vampire costume too, and asked Sleepy if she had some kind of vehicle a vampire could use. "How about a golden carriage lined with red velvet and pulled by 3 horses as black as ink?" she proposed. Spitfire nodded. "Great. We all need some expensive-looking gifts that are actually phony." Leafy brought out a pile of fake objects, including a fake golden crown, a chest of fake jewels, and a fake bouquet of flowers. The objects looked so real, and it was hard to believe that they were phony. Now there was only one problem. The price for all these was 3,000 golden coins. Where would we get that kind of money? Spitfire had an idea. He took the heavy gold chain he wore around his neck and gave it to Leapy. The chain had a large, sparkling ruby dangling from it. "Will this be enough?" he asked. Leapy's eyes widened. "It's a done deal," she cried happily. Leapy was so thrilled with the necklace that she decided to throw in some parting gifts. She gave us 30 giant T-bone steaks. "Use this to feed those hungry wolves," she advised. She also gave us garlic to stuff in our pockets. "That place is crawling with vampires, and not that phony kind," she warned. I climbed into the carriage with a shaky paw. "Rancid rat hairs. I wish we were headed home to Mouse Island." We headed toward Fang Country, home of the vile vampires. How bad could it be? I thought. I leafed through the legendarium to pass the time. Oh, that was not a good idea. The book said that no traveler had ever made it back from the Fang Country alive. Nightmarish thoughts ran through my head as the carriage swayed frighteningly. My vampire teeth rattled in my mouth, and I began to feel carriage sick. Meanwhile, packs of wolves raced after us. I tried not to look, but couldn't stop myself. The wolves' beady eyes seemed to bore holes in the carriage. As we drove on, the landscape became gloomier and gloomier. Spiny, leafless trees extended their dry, crooked branches towards the sky. The mountains were purple and the rivers were red like blood. Every once in a while, Spitfire threw a stake out to the wolves so they could leave us alone. Weren't they supposed to be howling at the moon? An unsettling fog fell around us. Then it began to rain, and scary lightning flashed in the sky. I wrapped my cape up to my snout. What was next? Killer bees? A tornado? Monstrous alien cats? Finally, a castle appeared. We had arrived at Vampire Castle. Spitfire pulled the reins. The horses reared upwards, drawing in front of the castle. It was made of grey stone with black shingle roof. The flag that waved on the tower had a vampire bat on it. Just looking at the flag made my whiskers tremble with fright. But before I could run away screaming, Spitfire flew out and rang the doorbell. "Yeah!" I jumped. The doorbell was a scream. The door burst open and a vampire dressed in butler's uniform appeared. "Who dares knock on my door of a vampire castle?" he called. "I am Sir Spitfire," Spitfire yelled. "Please advise Count Vampirat that the Grand Duke Vampironimo and the Rat of Blood dynasty has arrived." I stumbled out of the carriage and put on my best vampire face, of course. I had no idea what the best vampire face was, so I just stand tall and not swallow my fake teeth. "I wish I had known you were coming," but the butler replied. "I would have prepared a welcoming party." Spitfire pretended to look surprised. "You didn't receive my message? I sent it to Vampiriority," he insisted. The butler shook his head, then he yelled to his staff, "Prepare the room in the 1,000-stair tower. We have a blue-blooded guest." At the word blood, all the servants began licking their lips. The butler led us along a dark hallway lit with torches. The flickering lights made the whole place look sinister. Oh, what a bright chandelier when you... Oh, where was a bright chandelier when you needed one? We ended up in an enormous room with a silver bat throne at one end and a fireplace at the other. Above the fireplace was the motto of the vile vampires, which inscribed, "Blood beats all." On the throne sat a pale rodent, wearing a gold medallion stamped with a letter V. Gulp. It was Count Vampirat. Weaving through his cluster of gossiping vampires, the vampire butler strode into the room and announced, "May I present you, the Grand Duke Vampironimo." Vampirat looked up and down, from my whiskers to my tail, with a penetrating stare. His eyes were so cold it felt like the temperature in the room had dropped from chilly to frozen solid. "Grand Duke Vampironimo, I presume," he said in a voice like thunder. I coughed. "Yes, this is I stammered. Spitfire flew to my aid. "Yes, Grand Duke Vampironimo is the noble Rat Blood dynasty," he lied. Vampirat huffed. "Never heard of this dynasty." Right then, I was offered a cup of red liquid. "Have some tasty, aged hawk's blood," said the vampire. My stomach lurched. Luckily, before I could faint, Spitfire whispered, "Don't worry, it's not real blood. It's just raspberry juice." I was so relieved, I chugged down the juice in one gulp and let out a big burp. Oops, how embarrassing. Vampire told us he would see us at dinner. As he was leaving, I noticed a little bat wearing a purple dress and a bonnet spying on Spitfire. "See you at dinner, Sir Spitfire," she said, giggling before flying off. It was Fangetta, lady's maid, and her name was Mademoiselle Batilla. Spitfire stared after the bat with a dreamy expression. "Wow, did you see her? I think I'm in love." I smiled at Spitfire. The vampire butler led us down a grey, rocky hallway that was dripping with moisture. When we reached a steep staircase, he passed me his chandelier and candle holder. Please proceed that way to your room. It's the tower, just through the 1,000-stair labyrinth, he advised. I cringed. 1,000 stairs? I could barely last 5 minutes on the stair mouse at the gym. I huffed and puffed up the never-ending stairs. About 7,000 years later, I finally reached the top of the stairs. The carpet was red with the crest of the vile vampires woven onto it. The canopy bed and the dreary red velvet curtains, blood-red sheets. On the walls were pictures of cemeteries. Holy cheese, these vampires needed a new interior decorator. Then I turned on the water in the bathroom. It spouted a red liquid. Spitfire, is that blood? I stammered. No, he assured me. It's just water from the Iron Mountains. Even so, I broke down in sobs. I can't do it. I can't pretend to be a vampire, I wailed. Spitfire put on his wings around me. Of course you can, Knight, he said. Just remember to file your teeth every morning, and when you hear the word blood, lick your lips and make a slurping noise. I pulled myself together, went down to the diner. Spitfire passed me the gifts we had brought from the phoning factory. Luckily, no one noticed they were all fake. The crown went to Count Vampirat. The chest of jewels went to his wife, and the other gifts were from the different vampires of the court. I offered a bouquet of fake red roses to Fangetta and made up a poem. For you who tend to fascinate a bouquet for roses to celebrate. Fangetta batted her eyelashes at me and said, Oh, thank you, Grand Duke Vampironimo. By the way, are you single? Caught off guard, I muttered, Oh, well, yes I am. Big mistake. I watched in horror as Fangetta ran over to Count Vampirat. I want him, Daddy. I want to marry that vampire, she insisted, stamping her foot. Why did I have to be such a charming vampire? The Count waited until we sat down at the dinner table before he grilled me on the background. So, Grand Duke Geronimo, where is your dukedom located? And how much land do you have? And how precious are your treasures? But most of all, how noble are your origins? They all stared at me with curiosity. I muttered, embarrassed. I am extremely noble. Well, I mean, that is, my family, from what I remember, dates back to a lot of years ago. Thankfully, Spitfire piped up. The Grand Duke Vampironimo is so noble that if you cut him, blue blood will come out. At that moment, the vampire cook arrived to serve us dinner, and the vampires began slurping up their digestive, disgusting food. What a horrific menu. If only I could have ordered a pizza without attracting too much attention. The only thing I could eat was the vampire soup. It was the color of blood, but it was actually just tomato soup. The conversation was most likely the gloomy things like ghosts, monstrous graves, terrible tragedies. Oh, how frightening. At one point, one of the vampires began telling jokes. Can you guess what they were about? Yep, all things dark and spooky. What a nightmare. At last, the dinner was over, and Vampire offered to show me his antique coffin collection. I was thrilled out of my furry mind. Finally, I'll get to see the crystal coffin. The whole reason I set off to the scary mission. Vampire brought me to a room with over 100 coffins. They proudly pointed out the crystal coffin. It was decorated with precious stones and lined with purple silk. There was a riddle written on the lid. I read the mysterious riddle. What I contain, I forever. He who enters will leave me never. Who can open me? Only a friend. Otherwise, that's it. The end. I moved closer, but the Count held up his paws. Beware, this coffin is dangerous. I cleared my throat. While I was wondering, is this coffin perhaps by chance for sale? I asked. The Count's eyes opened wide as he thundered. No, I will never sell the crystal coffin. When I woke up the next morning, I looked like I had been pummeled by Muhammad Ali, the boxer. My fur was sticking up, and I had two dark and swollen eyes. Well, at least you don't have to put on any powder this morning, Spitfire joked. You already look like a sickly vampire. I found out that the first part of the vampire challenge was a chess game. Everyone whispered, who plays better chess than Count Vampirat of the Grand Duke Vampironimo? I sat down at the chess table with the Count and we began to play. Let me just say, it's not easy to play chess with vampires breathing down your neck. The Count was a pretty decent player, but luckily I'd been on the chess team in school, and in the end I managed to get a checkmate. The whole court began applauding after I won. The Count silenced him with an icy stare. What a sore loser. Still, I was about to give the next Count a lesson in sportsmanship. Next he challenged me to a waltz contest. The Count danced with the Countess Bloodzilla, and I had to dance with, you guess, Bagnetta. The Count's daughter clung to me like a vine, batting her eyelashes and cooing, "Here comes the bride, all dressed in red." Unfortunately, I had no sense of rhythm. I tripped and stumbled, and all over the floor. Oh, why did I have two left paws? The vampire judges held up their scoreboards. Count Vampirat, 10. Grand Duke Vampironimo, -5. Don't worry, Spitfire consoled me. You have one more challenge, and you can still win. Sadly, the third part of the challenge was a duel. Let's just say dueling isn't exactly my thing. Something about the jumping and the swords and lunging, and did I mention the swords? Anyways, where was I? Oh yes, the Count grabbed his sword and shrieked, "Guarde, Vampironimo, if you win, you get the coffin, but if you lose, you must marry my daughter immediately." Then began to duel. The Count attacked me, and I retreated, farther and farther and farther. Before long, Vampirat and I found ourselves on top of a long table in the reception room, and that's when it happened. The sword slipped from my paws, flew into the air, and cut the cord that was holding the heavy chandelier. The chandelier crushed on the top of the Vampirat, who was out like a light, and when the Count came to, he shook my paw. "You won, Vampironimo. Nice match." I thanked the Count. I guess he wasn't such a sore loser after all. Then I said goodbye to Fagnetta and tried not to smile too much. After all, she didn't know I wasn't really a vampire, and I slept like a vampire during the night. Ready to go? I asked Spitfire after we wrapped up the crystal coffin. The bat coughed. Knight, I have some news. Batilla and I have decided to get married, and I was wondering, will you be my best mouse? Best vampire? Of course I agreed. So at midnight, Spitfire and Mademoiselle Batilla united in matrimony. He gave her his ruby bat ring. She gave him a locket of her portrait in it. It was a Marvin Mouse ceremony. There were two bats, were so in love, I couldn't keep them smiling. Though I had to be careful that my fake fangs didn't keep popping out. When the wedding was over, I said goodbye to Spitfire and Batilla. The vampires of the court helped me load the crystal coffin onto the carriage. Then I began the long journey back to the enchanted city. My bat friend's last words to me were, "Knight, you did it. You can finally relax." Oh, if only that was true. When I reached the crystal castle, I took off my vampire disguise and put back on my armor. I headed for the front door, but the two knights of the Dark Tower blocked my path. "Halt! Who are you and what do you want?" "I am Sir Geronimo of Stilton, and I completed my mission," I squeaked. Suddenly, a group of dark bears arrived. "How did you make it back alive?" they shrieked. I started to explain, but they waved me off. "Whatever, the Queen has a new mission for you. You're to bring her the green hair from the 3 hairballs who live in the hairy woods," they ordered. Feeling dejected, I unloaded the crystal coffin out of the carriage and slunk away with my tail drooping. Where was my hero's welcome? When was Blossom going to be satisfied? Still, I'd promised my loyalty to the Queen so long ago, I couldn't give up now, and so I prepared to leave again. This time, to the green hair from the 3 hairballs. Yuck. I leafed through the legendarium looking for my mysterious hairy woods. Holy cheese, it was really far away. Luckily for me, the King of Fantasy train passed right through those parts, and I headed to the Enchanted City train station. But when I arrived, I realized I didn't have money to pay for a ticket. Rats! Suddenly, amongst the crowd of magical creatures, I noticed a mysterious traveler wearing a blue cloak with hoods over her eyes. He walked over to me and whispered, "Psst, Mouse, your friend Blue Rider is here." We hugged. I was so happy to see a friend. "I've been following you for a while," Blue Rider said. "I brought you a few things that might come in handy on your next mission." Then he gave me his cape, his armor, and a bag of gold. "Thank you, Blue," I said. "Aren't friends the best?" I watched as Blue disappeared into the crowd. I ran to the ticket counter. The ticket clerk, who was the dormouse, was snoring away. "1 ticket for the next train, please, to Hairy Woods." The mouse opened his eyes. "Just one way?" he snuffled. "No, I need a return ticket," I said. The dormouse huffed. "Not everyone makes it back from the Hairy Woods, you know." My full cousin Drowsier went a few years ago. All that made it back was a package of bones. Well, you win some, you lose some. "I was hoping to return," I stammered. "Just trying to save your money," the dormouse replied, before dozing off again. By the time I boarded the train, I was already panicking. Still, I remembered what my great aunt Ratsy always said. Knowledge is power. So I flipped open the legendarium and read the hairballs of Hairy Woods. Cheese sticks. Hairy Woods was a disturbing place. The hairballs had magic hair that was stronger than steel. How would I ever take any? Before I could figure it, the train stopped. and the conductor yelled, "Harry Wood, stop! Get off it if you want, but good luck getting back." I was the only traveler to get off at the Harry Wood station. A sign pointed the way to the thorny labyrinth. I wandered through the labyrinth until I saw strange tracks on the ground and heard a noise that sounded like someone running. I hid behind a tree and saw a mouse made of bones ahead of me. It had claw windows and a roof covered in skull, and a door made of sharp teeth that snapped open and shut. But the most extraordinary thing was that the house was moving, and not just moving a little. It jumped here and there like chicken legs, complete with feathers and all. I waited for the house to tire of jumping, and then I approached it. As quiet as a mouse, I approached the window to peek. It's a good thing I hadn't eaten lunch recently. If I had, I would have lost it. Seriously, I hate to be mean, but those hairy balls were beyond filthy. Clouds of fleas, gnats swarmed their long, curly, rotten green hair, and their dirty long nails looked like claws. As they brushed their greasy manes, the three hairbals sang a song in piercing voices. That's it, I thought. Now I know how I would get near the hair. I pretended to be a hairstylist. I took Blue Rider's cloak and made it into a hairstylist's coat. I made a mustache out of roots and glued it with some of the pine resin. Then I put together a wig made of bark. Finally, I knocked on the door of the chicken feet house. "Good day, my name is Jerry Stiltonstyle. I am a hairstylist," I said. The hairball stared at me with wide eyes as I continued. I was just passing by to see if there were any beautiful clients out here. Well, to become more beautiful, I do manicures and makeup too." Immediately, the three hairballs pulled me into the house and locked the door. The first witch screeched, "Stiltonstyle, we need the works. Shampoo, dye job, blowout, and some of those hot curlers." The second hairball added, "We want manicures too. Rotten green nail polish for all three of us. It's all the rage, right, girls?" The third witch shrieked, "We want you to do our makeup. Green blush, green mascara, and green lipstick. We need to look beautiful, or there will be trouble." The three hairballs put some water on the fire to heat it up. Then they poured the water into 3 giant barrels. "Work out your magic, Stiltonstyle," the oldest hairball ordered. "Beautify us," I gulped. "Forget magic. It would take a miracle to beautify these threes." I still had to try. First, I washed the hair with soap. Then I made a conditioner out of olive oil and eggs. And finally, a spinach paste to brighten up the green in their hair. Then I blew their hair dry, praying I wouldn't blow off my mustache and blow my cover. As I worked, I noticed a wooden broom whimpering. "Oh, woe is me. If only I knew my way home. I'm so sick of these hairballs." Just then one of the hairballs piped up. "I had heard that you rotten sick of wood. You better watch what you'll say, or you'll end up into a pile of ash in the fire." The broom muttered under her breath. "One of these days I'll escape. If only I had a friend. I have a map," I thought. "Maybe I could help that broom find a way home." "We want a manicures," the hairball cried, interrupting my thoughts. To cut their nails, I had to use the hairball's pair of clear claw clips. They're magical scissors, so strong that they'll cut through nails as thick as claws. After the nails were cut, I tried suggesting haircuts. "Short hair is so in right now. You'd be envied by all your friends," I coaxed, but the hairballs flew into a rage. "No way," they shrieked. "We love our long green hair locks. Besides, we don't have any friends," I sighed, dejected. How would I ever complete my mission? I worked on the hairballs late into the evening. I did my best, but fortunately, the hairballs seemed very satisfied with their new looks. Moldy Locks praised me. "Well done, Stiltonstyle. You really gave it your all." Cordy Locks proposed, "You're hired. From now on, you can take care of our precious hair and all our styling needs." Oldie Locks showed me to the guest room. "Sleep now, Stiltonstyle. At dawn, you can give us toning facial with swampy mud." She concluded. That night, I pretended to sleep. I waited until the hairballs were snoring. Then I left the guest room. It was then that something brushed against my paw. A tiny voice whispered, "It's me, Flyola, the flying broom." I decided to make a break for it, but I didn't know my way around Harry Woods. "Maybe we could leave together." "Sure," I replied. "But first I have to do something. You see, I need to get a hold of some of the hairballs' hair, but I have to bring it home back to Blossom." She sent me on this mission, and the broom cut me off. "Love to hear the story, but we need to fly. If those hairballs wake up, we're done," she hissed. Then she wriggled out the window, whispering, "Hurry up." I grabbed the claw clips and crept into the hairballs' bedroom on tippy toes. Their snoring terrified the whole room. I approached the first hairball's bed. Snip, snip, snip. I cut off some of her hair. It was so long. Then I approached the second bed. Snip, snip, snip. I cut off her hair. Then I approached the third bed. Snip, and I cut off her hair. It was so hardy, clutching all the magic green hair. I turned and left, but the clipped claws fell, making a horrible racket. The hair boys woke up screaming, "Ah! Who cut our hair?" Then they saw me and yelled, "Chicken Feet House, stop that stylus!" Viola was waiting for me impatiently. I grabbed Blue Rider's helmet, jumped out of the window and onto the broomstick. In a flash, we were up into the air. It was then I made an awful discovery. I had no idea how to drive a flying broom. Eventually, I got the hang of it, and I managed to get steady on the broom. Far below us, we could hear the hairballs calling after us in a furious rage. The Chicken Feet House jumped out to try and bite us. The claws came out of the windows to try to grab us, but it was too late. We flew high into the sky, with shone the last stars of the night. "Which way to Enchanted City?" asked Viola. "Remember the map in the Legendarium?" I said. "That way, Viola. Keep left towards the Kingdom of Fairies." As we flew, Viola told us her story. She concluded, Sir Knight, after taking you to Enchanted City, I will go home. I can't wait to see my mother and tell her I'm sorry." We flew and flew and flew, until stars disappeared and the first rays of sun appeared. If anyone had looked in the sky as we passed, they would have seen such a strange sight. The next morning, we landed in Enchanted City. I thanked Viola and gave her a piece of Blue Rider's cloak to remember me by. "Thanks, Viola," said with a smile, "and now I have something for you." With that, she began shaking her head back and forth as if she had a terrible itch. Then she waved goodbye and flew off. Molten Mozzarella had the broom picked up the lice at the Chicken Feet House, but when I looked down, I realized Viola had shaken all the stardust she had picked up on the flight into a small pile for me. How sweet. I gathered the shiny dust in the piece of cloth and headed once more to Crystal Castle. Before I even reached the castle, a black crow flew over me and dropped a small box on my head. Inside the box was a scorpion blossom with a message written in the Fantasian alphabet. "Hey, you Knightsy," the crow gnawed. "I am Cosberry, Nefaria's assistant. Queen Blossom wants you to give me the green hair and then bring her the treasure that is described on the scroll." I sighed. Would I ever survive this never-ending story? Still, I didn't know what to do, so I kept going. I wrote to Blossom to tell her I was up for the new mission. Then I left Enchanted City again. This time, I was searching for something called the Stone Mask. As I walked, the wind carried the crow's last words. "If you want some free advice, go back when you came from. The air here is no good." Caw. I took a leaf from the Legendarium. Reading about the Stone Mask brought so many memories. I had found the Stone Mask during my third voyage to the Kingdom of Fantasy. Here's what happened. Cackle, the Queen of the Witches, kidnapped Blossom and took her to the Kingdom of Nightmares. Grim, the King of Nightmares, who reigned there, he swore and wore the Stone Mask. It made him evil, but once he met Blossom, his heart softened. Grim challenged Cackle to a duel to free Blossom, and he won. The Stone Mask split in two and the King of Nightmares became good. Blossom was free. She and Grim had fallen in love in the process, and they got married. He changed his name from Grim to George. Later, Blossom realized that the two pieces of the mysterious mask kept joining back together, so she gave the mask to her uncle, the Wizard of Lakeness. Lakeness lived in the Wave Castle, a water castle built on the bottom of the shining waters lake. I closed the Legendarium, my whiskers trembling with worry. If the Stone Mask was in a castle at the bottom of a deep lake, how could I ever get it? After a day of night walking, I reached the mysterious land, near the shining waters lake. I walked along the shore, staring at the waves. How could I get to the bottom of the lake? Note to self, next time, pack scuba gear. But wishing things were different wouldn't change my situation. Suddenly, I saw the most heartbreaking sight. An enormous fish was trapped in a tangled net. The fish was as white as a pair of snow. He had bright, sparkling blue eyes, and the most spectacular gold fins. Oh, how those gold fins shone! "Please, traveler, can you help me?" the poor fish called, flailing desperately. The net was thick and I could see the sadness in the fish's gaze. "I will help you," I called. Without a second thought, I grabbed the net and ripped it to shreds. The golden fish was, but instead of swimming away, he sang in a beautiful, beautiful voice. "Thank you, traveler, for setting me free. You're as kind as can be. Now tell me, sir, what can I do to help you on your travels too?" After explaining to the fish what I was doing and where I was heading, he told me to jump onto his back. Have you ever ridden on the back of a fish? Let me tell you, they are super slippery. If I grabbed onto a fish's fin for dear life, Then he dove beneath the waves. Good thing everything enchanted in the kingdom of fantasy was able to breathe underwater. After a little while, I got used to the whole breathing underwater, whale riding a giant fish thing, and looked around. We passed a strange rock shaped like a carb. Bubbles swirled all around us. We slipped right past the reckless rocks, even though the legendarium specifically said it was reckless to do so. Right after the dangerous, swirly whirlpool and behind the never-ending abyss, I saw the circular current. "Hold on tight," yelled the golden fish. Down there at the bottom of the wave castle, he dove into a current, which spun us around and around and around, down towards the never-ending abyss. The current left us at the bottom of the lake, where the darkness was black as ink. Yet we had reached the never-ending abyss, the place where the sun never rises or sets. The golden fish pointed me to a castle made entirely of water. It was a legendary wave castle. Catfish swam towards us. "Welcome to our waters, Blub Blub," he said. "Please allow me to accompany you to Wave Castle." Soon a whole school of fish was escorting us to the castle. As they swam, I heard them murmuring to each other. "Blub, can you believe it? It's a mythical golden fish. Blub, but who is riding him? Blub, is that Sir Geronimo, the fearless knight?" I tried to look strong and fearless, but it wasn't easy. The salt water was making my whiskers droop on my ears, and my tears began to drop down. When we entered the wave castle, the whole place was so magnificent my eyes popped out. Okay, they didn't really roll away and pop out, but you get the picture. It was incredible. Everything was made of water. The ceilings, the floors, the walls, even the furniture. I was still checking out the castle when a water door burst open and a water curtain was pulled aside, and the water throne I saw was the wizard Lakeness. He had a long blue hair, and he was wearing an argyle tunic decorated with pearls and a pointed hat. "Hello, I began. He lifted an eyebrow. "I know," he said. Well, I'm here because," I continued. He lifted his eyebrow again. "I know," he said. "Okay, well, I need the mask." This time he lifted the eyebrows and he sighed. "I know you need the mask. What I don't know is why my sweet niece Blossom wants such an evil object." The wizard removed a chain from around his neck and 7 keys on it. Then he used the keys to unlock 7 water chests, one by one, each one inside another. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When Lakeness had opened the last chest, I gasped. The inside, floating in a vase of water, was the stone mask. The wizard gave me the vase. I took it with trembling paws. What a shock. No, I don't mean I was surprised. I meant the vase gave me an electrical shock. Talk about negative energy. "Don't worry, Knight," she said, the witch and the wizard. "You are fearless, which means this mask cannot harm you." Twisted Cheddar rolls. I guess now wasn't the time to mention I'm not really fearless. I'm a really scaredy mouse. "Just be careful," the wizard continued. "The mask is an evil object. Please go immediately to Crystal Castle and give it directly to my niece. Remember, what you are carrying is more dangerous than a scorpion, more poisonous than a rattlesnake, and more deadly than a hot dog at the Salty Sea Shanty. Have you ever eaten there? Ugh. Anyway, whatever you do not let the mask out of the vase for any reason." Lakeness stroked his beard. "I must tell you, Knight, I'm very worried about Blossom," he said. "She hasn't been herself lately, and I don't know why she would want the stone mask, but I must respect her wishes." Clutching the vase, I said goodbye to my wizard friend and climbed back onto the golden fish. He swam in silence back towards Crystal Castle. I couldn't wait to get rid of the creepy stone mask, but when we reached the castle, a sign on the door read closed. Even though the sign said it was closed, I knocked on the door anyway. "What do you want?" a nasty voice shrieked. It's Sir Geronimo," I began. A clawed hand shot out from behind the door, and the voice ordered me to hand over the mask. I did, and in return the hand passed me a scroll with Blossom's seal on it. "The Queen has written the name of the treasure that you must now bring her. This is your next mission," ordered the voice. Then the door slammed shut on my snout. I unscrolled the scroll and translated the words that were written in the Fantasian alphabet. When, oh when, would this adventure end? I left the castle and walked away with my whiskers drooping. The wizard was right. Blossom really was acting strange, but I am a mouse of my word, and I had agreed to help the Queen. So that's exactly what I would do, and just hoped I wouldn't lose my fur in the process. I checked the legendarium to figure out where I would find the next treasure. The magical click-clack chain could not be found. To get there, I had to board a ship and follow the fantastic river, which followed the sea of mermaids. From there, it would be a long trip to Mount Giant. I sighed. I was tired already, but it didn't look like I had time for a quick rat nap. Unfortunately, there wasn't much information about Red Hot, except that he can breathe fire. I had to report the enchanted city on the shore of the fairy lake. I need to find a way to get down to the fantastic river of the sea mermaids. Down at the port, I found a shabby ship named the Outlaws. An evil-looking gnome with a grey beard eyed down upon me. It was Bad Beard the pirate. "What are you looking at?" the gnome growled. I thought about pointing out he was the one staring at me, but he decided against it. Picking a fight with fierce pirate wasn't a good idea. Instead, I said, "I need to ride to Mount Giant." Bad Beard studied me. What was he looking at? My fur or my whiskers? My good posture? Turns out it was none of the above. He was staring at my armor Blue Rider had given me. "I'll take the armor and you'll get a ride," he said. I felt terrible giving up the armor, but I had no choice. At least he let me keep the helmet. In the place of armor, Bad Beard gave me an old shirt I put on, and we left. We sailed along the fantastic river until we reached the Sea of Mermaids. As we sailed, we saw many legendary lands. In fact, they were so legendary that no one had ever gone there. Suddenly, we found ourselves in the middle of a storm. My sun began rolling with the waves. I was so seasick. We passed scary whirlpools, dangerous rocks, and monstrous waves. At last, we spied foggy land. Bad Beard pointed to the shore. "That should be Mount Giant, if the legend is true." "But how do I get there?" I stammered. Bad Beard snickered. "If you give me that silver helmet, I'll get you a lifeboat. Otherwise, you can swim," he sneered. With tears in my eyes, I gave him the helmet. Then I got into my tiny lifeboat and headed for shore. The boat trembled over the choppy waves as I rowed and rowed. Luckily, I had the compass that Santa Claus had given me. It helped me find my way through the fog, and I finally reached the shore. I was alive, but where was the Mount Giant? To find out, I leafed through the legendarium. I walked along the path. My heart was thumping. Suddenly, I saw a strangely shaped sign. It read, "This way to Red Knot Nest. Are you sure you want to go?" I shivered, but kept walking. I continued until I saw a second sign. "You're almost at the Dragon Red Hot's nest. Last chance before you can turn around." I gasped but kept going. Finally, I saw another sign. "Halt! You have arrived at Red Hot's nest. Too late to change your mind. Hope you have a good life." I broke out in sobs. Then I saw a shape too tall, and that touched the clouds. It was a giant emerald green dragon. Luckily, the dragon soon stopped breathing fire. I hurried to blow out the fire that had started at the back of the legendarium. I stopped the flames, but the last page of the books were charred to a crisp. Oh, how will I tell Scribblehopper I had ruined his precious book? I was still thinking about the book when a scary voice sounded. "Well, do you need something? You didn't come all this way for nothing, did you?" Like a snake, the dragon extended slowly his neck and sniffed me. You smell like a mouse." "Are you a mouse?" he asked. I trembled. "Well, yes. That is, I am a mouse, if you don't mind," I babbled. The dragon licked his lips. "Oh no, Red Hot has nothing against mice. He loves mice. He loves them boiled, fried, baked, stuffed, and even raw," he cried. I swallowed. Oh my, why did I have to admit I was a mouse? I could have passed for a hamster who knew the dragon liked them. Hamsters have much more fur after all. "So why are you here?" the dragon's voice thundered. "Red Hot doesn't have all day. He's got places to go, things to burn." Shuddering, I explained that I came for the click-clack chain. The dragon roared. "You want the chain, mouse? Then you must answer 4 dragon riddles." The dragon snickered. "Well, mouse, what is your response to these riddles? Red Hot is waiting." The riddle made my head spin like a top, around and around and around. The mouse's response. Once upon a time, a gigantic dragon met a mouse. The dragon was starving, since he hadn't eaten in centuries, but though the dragon wasn't big, he was that bright. The mouse saver was very clever. So before the dragon could devour him, the mouse said, "Oh, enormous mouse, I know that you will eat me, but I would like to choose how I will die." The dragon agreed. He said, "Would you like to die being roasted or squashed, or ground, or some other way? Tell me, I will accommodate you." The mouse responded, and the response saved his life. What did the mouse say? How many gnome faces are in this tree? The tree of gnomes. Look closely at the dragon. How many legs does it have? Look closer at this picture. Do you see a fancy goblet or the faces of 2 fairies? These were the riddles. The dragon pulled out an hourglass filled with golden sand. When the sand was in the hourglass had drained, Red Hot needs answers. Got it? I thought and thought and thought. Then I said, "I've got it. I have the solution." One after another, I told the answers to the dragon. Red Hot was so annoyed, a little fire shot out of his nostrils. Oops, the dragon apologized. Red Hot gets angry when he doesn't win, but you gave all the right answers, so Red Hot will honor his word. And with that, the huge dragon raised himself from his silver straw nest. Inside the nest was a solid, cold egg. Then the dragon broke open the egg. What was inside? The click-clack chain. I stared at the legendary chain sparkling like the rays of the sun, which was woven into it. The dragon handed it to me, and to make the chain lock around something, just said the magic words, click, clack, paddy, whack, look up, chain, front to back. I thanked Red Hot for the treasure. Blossom has ordered me to bring her this chain, I explained. Well, why didn't you say so in the first place, the dragon said with a grin. Red Hot would do anything for the queen. After that, the dragon and I began chit-chatting away like we were old friends. We talked about the weather, books, music, and the dragon's favorite ice cream flavors. Who knew a fire-breathing dragon could eat ice cream? Red Hot can't get a cone because of the melting, the dragon explained. Red Hot sticks to shakes. It was that then I noticed the dragon's cheek. It was swollen. Did your tooth hurt? Who, me? No. Red Hot is tough. Red Hot is strong. Red Hot is... A moment later, Red Hot began groaning. The dragon winced. Red Hot's tooth hurts, he admitted. It's okay, I said. Just open your mouth and I'll have a look. Of course I don't know anything about teeth. I'm an author, not a dentist. Still, the dragon opened up his mouth. Great balls of mozzarella. His teeth were huge. Luckily, I didn't need a medical degree to find the problem. The dragon had a small bone stuck in the gums between two of his teeth. So I took my belt, tied it around with the bone, and pulled and pulled and pulled until the bone popped out. Thank you, Mouse, the dragon cried. That bone was stuck there for ages, since Red Hot ate all those trolls. Trolls are tasty, but they have such pointy bones. Afterwards, I boiled a bunch of chamomile flowers and made a compress to help with the swelling. Red Hot felt much better, he said. In return, I would like to give you 3 dragon gifts. The reverse magic words to unlock the click-clack chain, a dragon's tooth. I ride on Red Hot, the giant dragon. The first dragon gift. Magic words. Click-clack, paddy-whack, lock up, chain, front to back. Reverse magic words. Click-clack, reverse, back, untie chain, piddly-pack. Just knowing the words to lock the click chain is enough. It's important to also know the reverse magic words to unlock the chain and undo its binding spell. Otherwise, you can only use the chain once. A dragon's tooth. The dragon's tooth gives courage to even the most fearful. All you have to do is rub the tooth with your right paw, stick out your tongue, stomp your foot 3 times while waving your left paw in the air, and then blink both your eyes and wiggle your whiskers. The third dragon gift was a super speed flight aboard Red Hot, the giant dragon. The dragon flew me all the way to Enchanted City. Goodbye, Mouse, he said when you arrived. Please tell the queen that Red Hot is faithful subjects of her. Clutching the dragon's tooth for courage, I approached the entrance for the castle. It had been replaced with a heavy iron door with 13 locks securing it. I knocked. I am sir. I hadn't even finished squeaking when a small window opened in the door. A claw hand snatched the magical chain. Then the hand gave me a bottle with a top shaped like a tear. Fill this vial of condensed sadness. This is your last mission from the queen. Be quick about it, hissed an evil voice. I took the vial and saw that there were writing etched on the side, condensed sadness. So this was my 7th and last mission. I left quickly so that no one could see me cry. What had happened to my dear friend Blossom? She used to be so kind. Being disappointed by a friend like this was more upsetting than being attacked by an enemy. I sat under a weeping pillow. Its branches drooped downwards and made it seem sad, just like me. Sighing, I pulled out the legendarium to read about condensed sadness. Still feeling sad, I wandered and wandered and wandered. I wandered until I was outside the city in the middle of nowhere, where a dreary rain was falling. I wandered and wandered until I ended up getting lost in the maze of a hero's cemetery. I finally found my way out of the cemetery, but not before seeing that there was a tombstone all ready for me. What a sad, sad feeling. What a sad, sad place and such a sad, sad day. I hid out at the end of the bridge of unhappiness next to Bitterness River. Nearby was the Fountain of Tears. The water was from the mountain and the fountain that came out slowly, drop by drop. So it looked and sounded like tears. I bought a bunch of tissues and sat on a bench to cry. As evening fell, I had a pile of used tissues next to me, and I was still sobbing. Suddenly, a thought hit me. I didn't need to go far to complete my mission. I had already had what Blossom wanted, my tears. Here is a condensed sadness. My tears were the condensed sadness because I'm the saddest creature in the kingdom of the fantasy. In the saddest place in the kingdom. At the time when I felt the saddest, after going through the saddest experience, after all, what was sadder than being abandoned by your friends? Why didn't Blossom like me anymore? I gathered all my tears in the vial and went and left in front of the crystal castle. Then I sat on the steps of the castle and ate candy. Boils the Charming had given me. I drank the juice from Factual, the gnome. Oh, how I missed my friends. Now that I've finished my last mission, I could head back home, but things didn't feel right. I wanted to save my friendship with Blossom before I left, but how? I needed someone to give me a wise answer. I left the Legendarium and read about a place called Wisdom Hill. I started walking, and soon I reached the hill. Atop it was a stone with an inscription on it. If you need a wise answer, sit here, be still, and listen to your heart. I sat. Have you ever tried to be still? It isn't easy. My paws tap, my whiskers twitch. Even eventually, though, I relaxed. I watched as my dawn broke over in Charm City, turning the sky pink. I thought about Queen Blossom. I had to save our friendship. I stood on a rock, snout in air, paws on my hips, feeling strong. Then I tripped on a pedal and fell. But don't tell anyone. First, I need to come up with a plan. How could I find out why Blossom had changed so much? I decided to investigate in secret, to buy disguise, however I needed money. So I took a job as a dock worker, unloading cases of fish. By evening, I was terribly in pain. Or why'd I have to drop that case of fish on my paw? But I'd earned 3 copper coins. I returned to the phony factory to find a disguise. Leapy Longnoser, the owner, immediately recognized me. Hey, you're the rodent who bought that vampire costume. What can I do for you? She asked. I told Leapy what I needed. I showed her the 3 copper coins. That's it? She huffed. Well, for that kind of money, all I can give you is this gnome costume. It's on sale, but it's a little small and has a hole in the tights. Plus, there's a button on the jacket and it's musty, but it comes with a nice fake poison mushroom. I tried to get Leapy to give me a different costume, but she refused. Either take the gnome or go back home. She shrieked and snickered. I shuffled out the door. I looked ridiculous. The costume was way too small for me. I had to walk on my knees, and my knees bent. One thing was certain, though. Even my grandfather wouldn't recognize me. Dressed as a gnome, I headed back to Crystal Castle, but when I reached it, I gasped. The castle had been transformed. Now it was made of black steel and was surrounded by a dark and unsettling cloud. I saw a black marble sign. This building is now called Dark Castle, by the decree of Blossom, the queen of the kingdom of fantasy. Why had Blossom done such a thing? I heard some noises and hid. Then I saw even stinkier trolls entering the castle. Do you think that night is gone for good? One asked another. If not, Blossom said, we can make that mouse out of meat. That made me start to tremble. Next, 44 enormous roaches arrived. Guys, if Sir Geronimo is around, we need to tell the Knights of the Dark Tower immediately. There's a bounty on his head. That made me turn white. Then I saw a swamp monster, 4 ghosts, and many other scary creatures pass. I hope that night's gone, one said. What a goody two-shoes. Now we can be rotten, mean old selves. That made me start to tweet. Next, 3 vultures arrived, squawking. Once Sir Geronimo's dead, we can gobble up that fairy flesh. We haven't eaten a mouse in a while. That made me feel faint. Finally, a procession of witches arrived, singing, the knight is at the castle no more. Thank the heavens, he was such a bore. That made me offended. All the creatures of the kingdom of the fantasy watched the scene in horror. Where's the Blossom, our queen? Why is she inviting evil creatures to the castle? They cried. I had to get inside the castle to understand what was happening. I rubbed the dragon's tooth for courage. A minute later, I saw my lucky break. A group of gnomes were entering the castle with a cart of strawberries. I joined with them like I was part of the group, and the Knights of the Dark Tower led us through. Oh, how Crystal Castle had changed. It had walls, the floors, and the ceilings were all made of black steel. The carpet, furnitures, and paintings were now all black. The black curtains covered the windows and did not let one single ray of sunlight in. I headed down the hallway until I passed door 12 of the ceremony room, where Blossom's throne was. The door was open, and I heard Blossom's voice singing along with another one. I pressed my face up the door, and what I saw made me freeze. Blossom was on the throne, and at her side, Cackle, the queen of the witches, was with her. The queen of the fairies and the queen of the witches were chatting like old friends. How strange. I listened to the conversation with my heart in my throat, and it went like this. Cackle, so what do you think of the dark fairies? Blossom, they are a perfect court for me. Cackle, and tell me, has the knight carried out all the missions? Blossom, yes, all 7. Cackle, was he upset that you treated him badly? Blossom, you should have seen his face. Cackle, wait till he finds out about our secret plan. Using all 7 treasures, we can imprison her forever. Blossom, oh my dear, when we finish with her, he won't be able to save her anymore. She is finished, and so is the Kingdom of Fantasy. I listened carefully, scratching my gnome beard. What is going on? Why was Cackle getting along so well with Blossom? What was the secret plan they had together? What was the mysterious her they were talking about? And most of all, why did Blossom seem to hate me so much? The evil witches both laughed, and the queens, echoed through the ceremony room. By now, I was totally confused, and I thought Blossom and Cackle were enemies, but now they were screeching away like BFFs. What was next? Were they going to start dressing alike, having sleepovers at each other's house? I stared at Blossom, trying to figure things out. She seemed like the same Blossom I'd met on my trip to the Kingdom of Fantasy. She had on the same sparkly dress and shoes, and she had the same ring and earrings and rose crown. She also wore the same medallion with the same name etched on the back. At the moment, Blossom saw some black roses in a vase. Ah, black, my favorite color, she whispered. A black rose fell to the floor, and Blossom knelt down to pick it up. As she bent over her, a medallion flipped over. I then noticed something. The writing on the back of the medallion didn't say her name, Blossom the Flowers. I had another name, Wither of the Flowers. When I saw it, what it said was, I understood immediately. This fairy wasn't Blossom at all. It was her twin sister. Blossom had a twin sister called Wither that looked exactly like her. I felt such a huge wave of relief wash over me. So that's why Blossom was so rude to me, because she wasn't really Blossom. She was Wither, and I was sure that the real Blossom still considered me a good friend. But where was the real Blossom now? I absolutely had to find out and save her. Right then, I heard the sound of a violin music spread through the air. It was somber and unsettling. Tons of dark fairies came into the room and danced around. Each fairy was playing a silver violin and singing the secret song of the dark fairies. They mentioned Mount Blast in their song. I remember having read something like that in the spooky area in the Legendarium. Suddenly, Wither got up and disappeared behind a screen. A little while later, she reappeared. Instead of wearing her usual fairy gown, she was dressed all in black. I, Wither, leader of the dark fairies, have an announcement to make, she yelled. I had taken Blossom's place, tricking everyone, even that no-good mouse. What a no-good mouse, the dark fairies echoed. Wither went on to explain about the 7 treasures. I got the fur brain to bring them all to me. Now I can use them to imprison my twin sister, Blossom forever. Ugh. Her sappy, sweet personality is enough to give me a toothache. A toothache, the dark fairies repeated. I rolled my eyes. The dark fairies sounded like a bunch of parakeets. Didn't they ever use their own brains? Then the dark fairies called, No one is smarter than you, old Wither. And I realized I'd better figure out who Wither was going to imprison and how she was going to imprison Blossom. Wither clapped her hands and ordered, Bring me Blossom. 7 hooded knights of the Dark Tower brought out a stretcher of Blossom on it. She had the Sweet Dreams cradle around her neck, and she was in deep, deep sleep. Thanks to the Sweet Dreams cradle, the first treasure the knight retrieved, Blossom will sleep forever. Ha ha ha. If Sir Geronimo was here, I'm sure he'd be proud to see what his mission accomplished. With the first treasure, Blossom will sleep forever. Then Wither shrieked, And now bring me the second treasure, the Essence of Darkness. Nefaria brought her on the bone box that the Stinky Backs had given me. A dark cloud rose out of it, and as it opened, Hee hee, Wither cackled. This will make Blossom pitch black, and make Blossom's prison pitch black forever, darkest than the darkest night. Next, Wither yelled for the third treasure. 4 knights carried the crystal coffin into the room. They lifted up Blossom and put her inside. Putrid Parmesan. This is getting way too creepy. Wither planned on locking her sister inside the crystal coffin. This coffin will keep Blossom in prison for months, years, and centuries. In other words, she'll never leave. All the dark fairies echoed her words. Never leave, never leave. With the third treasure, Blossom will be locked up forever. What about the fourth treasure? What is that, Wither? Cackle asked excitedly. Wither giggled. Talk about a strange sense of humor. She held up the green hair I'd taken from the 3 hairballs. Kneeling over the crystal coffin, she used the hair to tie Blossom's hand together. Now you know you will never be able to free yourself, sister. And the kingdom will be mine forever, she laughed wickedly. I felt so sad. With the fourth treasure, Blossom would never be able to free herself. Nefaria handed Wither the 5th treasure, the vase of water containing the stone mask. Wither turned towards the head of the knight of the Dark Tower, Big Head. Who is more beautiful, she or I? She asked. Big Head coughed. The 2 fairies were identical. Well, you see, the knight stammered. The Dark Queen flew into a rage. She grabbed the mask and shoved it into Blossom's face. Now I'm the most beautiful in the entire kingdom of fantasy. All the black fairies repeated, Me, me, me. You fools! You mean you. Wither corrected them. With the first treasure, her beauty will be hidden forever. After that, Wither picked up the sixth treasure, the magical click-clack chain. Careful, my queen! The chain is very dangerous, Big Head warned. Wither shot him a look. Bull, do you think I was born yesterday? Of course I know it's dangerous. She lifted the chain, placed it around the crystal coffin, and said the click-clack magic words. The chain locked with a click and a clack. With the sixth treasure, Blossom will be imprisoned forever. Finally, Wither took out the seventh treasure, the condensed sadness. She grabbed the vial and poured the tears onto the coffin. They crystallized and formed a solid layer over the coffin. With the crystal tears, you couldn't see anyone was even in the coffin. Now you will be hidden, completely covered in sadness. Wither yelled, "Sweet dreams, this condensed sadness." With the seventh treasure, Blossom will be forgotten forever. Wither hid the coffin in a place that was very difficult to find because no one could see it. The invisible crypt. See you, Cackle. See you, Wither. Okay, show's over. Everyone, get out, Wither yelled at the dark fairies, and if I catch anyone spying, I'll turn you into a warty toad. Well done, my dear. Keep up the strictness. Let them know he was in charge. Cackle praised her. Now, I'm going off for the Kingdom of Witches. Wither went to the window to say goodbye to Cackle. Suddenly, she sniffed the air. Smells like a white rose, she said. My queen, the scent came from Blossom's beloved white rose labyrinth. Big Head explained to her. Destroy it at once, she shouted furiously. She sniffed again. I also smell mouse, she shrieked. I turned pale. Of course it smelled like Wither. Wither was smelling me. I took a step backwards and escaped down the dark hallway. I ran here and there, and up and down, and right and left until I saw a door that opened into the garden. I ran outside as fast as I could, and then went through a golden gate in the shape of a heart. It led me right to the White Rose Labyrinth. The White Rose Labyrinth was a small garden shaped like a heart. It was made of white rose bushes that made a very tall edge. At the entrance of the center flower maze was a tablet with a mysterious message engraved on it. I ran between those rose hedges, making so many turns I felt dizzy, but just when I thought I was completely lost, I arrived at the heart of the labyrinth, where I saw a small white marble temple which held a fountain. Its base was a shell-shaped tub with a mysterious statue standing over it. The statue depicted a hooded wizard at his feet. I saw an engraved message in Fantasian. I leaned over the tub with my head in the paws. I knew I had to save Blossom. But how could I do it alone? I thought all of the friends that I'd met during my voyages to the Kingdom of Fantasy. Maybe then they could help me. It was worth a shot. Peering into the crystal waters, I yelled. I wished with all my heart that my friends were here. And Thundorn and his sister Emerald, the Princess Sterling with her dragon, Sparkle and Blue Rider, and Tenderheart and Prince George, and Captain Coldheart and King Skywings and Oscar Roach, and the Ladybug Queen, Bitsy Ladybug, and all my other friends too. Just thinking about them, my friends, made me miss them. A tear fell down from my cheek and fell into the mountain's tub, and it dropped. As soon as my tear hit the water, an amazing thing happened. The weird statue came to life. He said, I am the Wizard of Desires. Your desire is sincere. Your wish will be granted. He held his hands in the air, and a mist rose from the fountain. Then one by one, all my friends from the Kingdom of Fantasy came out of the fountain. Wow, this is amazing. My wish truly had been granted. I wasn't alone anymore. I was so happy. I hugged my dear friends one by one. I was a little embarrassed to be seen in a gnome disguise, but that there were 3 sizes too small for me, but no one cared. I should have known, as my Aunt Sweetfoot always tells me, true friends don't care what you wear, they care about you. Anyway, where was I? Oh right, I thanked my friends for coming. Then I said, we need to save Blossom. I continued to explain. Blossom had been imprisoned by her evil twin sister Wither. Wither looked just like our dear queen, but wow, she's rotten. Wither has all sorts of magical powers, treasures to confine Blossom, and even worse, has locked her in the mysterious and invisible crypt. George stepped forward. That's terrible. Let's form a rescue committee. Good idea, Oscar Roach agreed. What should we call ourselves? Scribblehopper jumped up. Since we are fighting to bring back our queen, how about we call ourselves the Comeback Club? And our symbol could be a blue rose, the color of the Blossom's eyes, he croaked. Everyone shouted, hooray for the Comeback Club! As we made our rescue plans, the Wizard of the Desires urged us on. Look for a heart-shaped silver plate. that hides in a secret passageway. A group of us raced for the silver plate. The wizard had explained that the secret passageway would lead us to the ceremony room. When we found the plate, Blue Rider lifted it up and we all scrambled inside. It was dark in the passageway. Chatterclaws rummaged through his shower and found a candle. It's a good thing I've got this Chatterhouse with me, with all my watcher ballistic, he said. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see a thing. Seriously, I couldn't. While he chatted on, we all gathered round the candlelight. I opened the legendarium to see what I could find out about the mysterious invisible crypt. I put down the book and scratched my head. So I guess only the crystalline gnomes know where to find the invisible crypt. But where can we find a crystalline gnome? I muttered. Right then, I noticed a cozy giving her husband, Factual, a hard elbow. Go ahead, Factual, she said. Tell the knight. Factual stepped forward. So, Geronimo, what I have to tell you is that my grandfather's 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 was a Quartzy, the king of the crystalline gnomes. Factual continued speaking and his voice echoed. Through the tunnel. Now I will tell you a secret. I know the riddle of the invisible crypt. The solution to the riddle tells us how to reach the crypt, but the riddle is hard to answer. Very hard. No one has been able to solve it, but maybe you can solve it. Then he lowered his voice and whispered, Here is the mysterious riddle. To reach the crypt, you must find a place that reflects you and your mind. This place must portray all hours. It is made with magical crystal powers. So take a step and look around. It might be up or it might be down. I thought and thought, but I still was confused. What did the riddle mean? We headed further along underground until we found another heart-shaped silver plate. I lifted it up a tiny bit and peered it out. We had made it to the ceremony room, but the dark fairies of the Knights of the Dark Tower were everywhere. I studied the ceremony room. We needed to find the mysterious crypt, but how would we do it with all those fairies around? Suddenly, something shook the castle. It was Strongheart the giant, a member of the Combat Club. He was shaking the towers of the castle with his big strong hands. Next to him, Beatrice Bigfoot ripped the whole roof off the castle. Ah, it was nice to have strong friends. The dragon of the rainbow blew flames into the castle, roaring, Hey dark fairies, how would you like to play with fire? The fairies all began yelling at once. Get lost, Fireface. We'll make dragon hot dogs of you. Or maybe dragon soup. Oh please, the dragon countered. You tiny fairies couldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. I was beginning to think maybe this battle would be easier than I thought. I made a comparison to the dark fairies. My friends were huge. Unfortunately, before I could start celebrating our success, I heard a shriek that froze my blood. It was Wither, and she was shouting furiously. How dare you challenge me and my court? Full breath, prepared to battle. Foul breath. A minute later, a black dragon with terribly stinky fire breath arrived. Your wish is my command, Queen, she hissed. I should have known. Who else would have a dragon named Foul Breath? The dragon had flaming scales, red eyes, steel claws, and a helmet with a large ruby. Foul Breath approached the window of the castle and Wither jumped on her back. Dragon of the Rainbow, I'll be back, and you will pay for your rudeness. The dark fairies shrieked. The dragon flew away and the entire court of dark fairies and the knights of the dark tower fled behind them. Thank goodness they were gone. The dragon's foul breath was enough to make me gag. I turned to the dragon of the rainbow. Thank you for your courage, I told my friend. Crystal Castle was finally deserted. We began to search through it, but I couldn't find the invisible crypt. I thought and thought. In order to find the crypt, we have to solve the riddle. We can't paint portraits at all hours. What can reflect you and your mind? What is made up of magical powers? At that moment, I noticed a heavy velvet curtain in the corners. It was covering a mysterious object. When I moved the curtain, I saw myself reflecting in a mirror. That's it, I squeaked. A mirror makes portraits at all hours. There were writing engraved at the bottom of the mirror. I went and bent and took a closer look, then read the words. I, Quartzy, the king of the crystalline gnomes, created the mysterious invisible crypt. This magical mirror will take you there. I put my paw in the mirror. It went through the surface, then I stuck my foot in. It went through too, and I could see a staircase in front of me. Come on, I had to tell my friends. I found the entrance to the invisible crypt. Instead of following me into the mirror, Scribblehubba handed me a torch. Since you are the most courageous, Sir Knight, we decided the honor of entering the invisible crypt shall be yours. Good luck. I turned pale. Oh, why did my friends see that I really wasn't courageous at all? I was scared of a million things like spiders, the dark, and the spooky Sky-Fi ringtone on my cell phone. Still, I didn't want to disappoint everyone, so I gathered all my courage, crossed through the magic mirror, and descended down. Finally, I reached the bottom of the staircase. At the end, I found the invisible crypt. It was completely dark because of the essence of darkness that Wither had sprinkled around the crystal coffin. Okay, first things first, I said to myself, how can I cancel out the dark of the essence? As I racked my brain, I remembered the stardust I had received from Flyola. I threw this bright stardust in the air, and the crypt lit up completely. The coffin was covered in crystallized condensed sadness. To undo the spell, I knew I needed to find the condensed happiness, so I thought about a happy memory. I remembered that first time that I met Blossom. Just thinking about that brought tears of joy to my eyes. My tears fell on the crystals, and they melted. Now, I had to cancel out the spell of the click-clack chain. This one was easier, since Redrock had told me the reverse magic words. Carefully, I recited them. Click-clack, reverse back, untie chain, pistly pack. With a metallic noise, the chain opened. Then I had to open Count Vampirat's crystal coffin. But how? I read the riddle that was etched on the coffin's lid. It said that the help of a true friend was needed to open the coffin. I scratched my friend. A true friend? Hey, that was me! I was a true friend of Blossom. I lifted the lid right off. Now the coffin was open. I could hear the music of the sweet cradle's dream. That song was dangerous. It could put me to sleep forever. So I took off my shirt and wrapped it around my ears. Then I threw a cradle on the ground and stomped it. Once I got rid of the cradle, I had to remove the hairball's green hair that was tied around Blossom's hands. I couldn't cut the hair since I didn't have the claw clips, but I could untie the knots, so I did. Finally, I had to remove the stone mask. To protect myself from the danger of such an evil object, I thought good thoughts. Then I lifted the mask off Blossom's face and quickly slipped it back into the vase of water. When I had done it, for a moment, nothing happened. I stared at my friend lying in the crystal coffin. This was the moment of truth. Would she wake up? Would she recognize me? If she did, would she wonder why I was dressed in such a strange outfit? I couldn't wait to get back to my real clothes. Those gnome pants were so tight I could barely breathe. I was still thinking about my gnome disguise when Blossom opened her eyes. I knew you would come for me, fearless knight, she said. I grinned, and right then I smelled a sweet, delight aroma. It was the mythical scent of fantasy. I helped Blossom out of the crystal coffin. We walked up the stairs together, crossed to the mirror, and found ourselves in the ceremony room. The comeback club was so excited. Everyone shouted, "Our beloved queen has returned." Unfortunately, our happiness didn't last long. Wither had also returned to the castle. She shrieked at Blossom, "I challenge you to magic fairy duel. Whoever wins will rule over the kingdom of fantasy." Blossom was up to the task. "I accept your challenge." Wither attacked first. She let out a wild shriek, and a purple flash of light shot from her magic wand. Blossom ducked and counter-attacked by waving her own wand and letting out a blue flash of light. Then Wither threw a flurry of fireballs. Blossom defended herself with a clear and powerful light shield. She called all the butterflies of the kingdom of fantasy to protect her, so Wither called all the bats. Wow, what a duel. Two powerful sisters challenging each other while riding the prized dragons. The magic of good and the magic of evil. Wither soared high in the sky and nosedived towards her sister, but Blossom created a giant net of moon arrays. Wither bounced off the moon arrays and began to fall at an alarming rate. "Ah, the old net trick!" she shrieked. Wither plunged through the air in a swirl of black. Was this the end? Would she end up withered in a heap? Not this time. Right before she hit the ground, Cackle, queen of the witches, flew to her rescue. She was riding the most incredible stinky flying monster. The creature scooped up Withers in the net, then flew away as quick as lightning. The whole crowd gasped. What was that flying beast with bat wings on a boar's face? I leafed frantically through the legendarium and found out it was a stinky pus. As the stinky pus flew away, he shot out an extremely powerful flame, then let out a very noisy burp. Finally, he gave out a terribly stinky fart. The stench was so strong, even the flowers wilted. "We'll be back," Cackle warned as she flew off. Wither added something from the net, but all we could do was make out was that we will make fig. Her threats were lost in the wind as they flew, and so the stench of the stinky pus. Thank goodness. Everyone crowded around the queen. We were so relieved that the kind-hearted sister had won. I looked around at all the smiling faces. That's when I noticed the dragon of the rainbow was grinning from ear to ear, but wasn't looking at the queen. He was staring at the jeweled dragoness, and a goofy, dreamy expression. "Isn't she wonderful?" he said to me, pointing at Jess. "She's so kind and caring and cute. I've liked her for years, but I'm too shy to tell her, so I decided to introduce them." The two of the dragons hit off immediately. They went off together, talking about flying and the flames and all sorts of dragon things. It turns out I'm not only a mouse. I'm a matchmaker. Who knew? Blossom looked around onto the balcony and Crystal Castle. I addressed everyone. My beloved subjects, light has won against darkness. The time has now come to restore harmony to Crystal Castle. She lightly touched the black castle with her magic wand. The building began to sparkle before long. The entire castle had returned to bright and shiny crystal state. Everyone cheered. My subjects, I am so sorry my twin sister Wither treated you so horribly. We may look alike, but we are very different. We both belong to the Winged Dynasty. But at last, her heart is dark and broken and frozen like a winter's night. I would never close the castle doors to you, and I would never humiliate my friend Sir Geronimo. It was all the doing of my evil twin sister Wither. And let me now tell you the story of the Winged Ones. The story of the Winged Dynasty. The kingdom of fantasy has always been governed by the Winged Ones. They are pure-hearted creatures. Every member of the Winged Dynasty lived for thousands of years and remained eternally young. They had handed down the mysteries of the kingdom, and they guard the portal of fantasy, which allows those who are worthy to enter the kingdom. The story of Blossom and Wither. One day long ago, twin sisters named Blossom and Wither were born. Each one received a silver fairy medallion with her name engraved on it. But the Wither was stung by a poisonous butterfly sent by Cackle. Her heart turned evil. I want to become a witch. Teach me to be evil, she spoke to Cackle. Wither fled Crystal Castle. She went to the kingdom of the witches and asked Cackle to teach her how to be a witch. Cackle did, and at last, Wither became an expert. Finally, she returned to Crystal Castle to steal the throne from Blossom. After Blossom finished her story, she returned to me and smiled. Once more, dear knight, you have saved me in the entire kingdom of fantasy, she said. For that, I would like to give you this reward. She waved her magic wand and sang. A flash of light surrounded me as Blossom announced, from now on, you will be called Fearless, the Prince of the Winged Ones. Then she led me over to a mirror. I now had a blue complexion, so the wings sprouted from my back. I wore a crown on my head. Wow, I really looked like a prince. Blossom gave me a sword. Its name was Brave One. The Brave One was a mythical sword made of sparkling fairy crystal. It had a handle engraved with 3 roses and a very sharp blade. Blossom led me to the balcony. When I looked down, I saw all my friends. Thank you for making me a Prince Blossom, I told the Queen. I couldn't have done this alone. Blossom smiled. Don't worry, Prince Fearless, she assured me. I have many more rewards. Then she gave each a member of the Comeback Club a gift. Finally, peace, happiness, and love have returned to the kingdom of fantasy, and everything was as it should be. And speaking of love, just then the Dragon of the Rainbow spoke up with an announcement. Jess and I are getting married. How wonderful! Preparations were beginning immediately. The next day, a carriage pulled by 7 white unicorns flew up to the castle. The carriage held a blue pillow with 2 giant golden wedding rings resting on it. Everyone in the kingdom had been invited to the dragon wedding. Even the Phoenix of Destiny arrived and offered to take me for a ride around Enchanted City. Your wish is my command, Prince. The Phoenix laughed as I climbed onto her back. I'll be back in time for the wedding, I told everyone. Then we took off in the beautiful sunset. I could hear the crowd beneath me cheering. Hooray for Prince Fearless. I felt like a real celebrity. Eventually, the Phoenix brought me back to the Crystal Castle and I met up with all my friends. I heard someone calling Prince. I recognized the voice immediately. It was Scribblehopper. So I was wondering if you don't need it anymore. Can I have the legendarium back, he croaked. I was so embarrassed, but I had to tell my friend the truth about the dragon and the fireball, and what happened to the book. Well, you see, there was an accident, I began. Luckily, Scribblehopper took it all in stride. It's okay, Prince. Actually, I have a lot of ideas for another book. I was thinking maybe I could write about. Scribblehopper croaked on, and wedding bells began to chime. The great dragon wedding had begun. Everything was enormous, especially the wedding cake. As the wedding celebration continued, Blossom pulled me aside. Today, tomorrow, and today, you will return home, Prince Geronimo. But before you go, I'll have one more gift for you, she said. From a crystal jewelry box lined with blue silk, the Queen removed a silver fairy ring with sparkling sapphire in it. Prince, you are a winged one now, she said as she handed me the ring. This ring with the emblem of the Winged Dynasty on it will allow you to cross the portal of fantasy and leave the kingdom. This ring will allow you to return whenever you want, but be warned, take care of the special ring. It could be very dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. I thanked Blossom and took the ring. Then I realized I had no idea how to use it, but the queen explained I had to simply rub the ring and say 3 magical words. Are you ready to leave? Blossom asked. I nodded. Don't get me wrong, I love all my friends in the Kingdom Fantasy, but I was really starting to miss my friends and family back home. Waving goodbye, I rubbed the ring and recited the magic words. Immediately, a blue vortex opened in front of me, sucking me in. I heard Blossom's voice in the distance saying goodbye, Geronimo. See you soon. The blue vortex transformed into colors of the rainbow. I was crossing through the portal fantasy and was going home. Suddenly, I was back at home in my house in New Mountain City. I was sitting in my favorite porch chair in front of my fireplace, watching the last embers of the fire die out. I stretched and yawned. Holy cheese, what just happened? Then it all started coming back to me. The Phoenix of Destiny, Crystal Castle, World of the Dragon Wedding. I sighed dreamily. What a wonderful adventure in the Kingdom Fantasy. And this time I wasn't just a knight. I had become Prince Fearless with the Winged Dynasty. But was it just a dream? I looked over the table next to my chair, and there was the ring with the shining sapphire. It was real. Well, that ring, I had become a winged one. I could return to the Kingdom Fantasy anytime I wanted. All I had to do was say the magic words for the portal to open. I clapped my paw to my mouth. I wasn't ready for another adventure in the Kingdom Fantasy yet. After all, I felt like I had been away from home forever. I had places to go, rodents to see, chocolate chip cookies to eat. I was just nibbling and taking a bite of my cookies when the telephone rang. I picked it up right away. What took you so long, grandson? I don't have all day, my grandfather, William's voice shouted. Did you come up with a new epic idea adventure? Did you? Start writing yet? I smiled under my whiskers. Yes, grandfather, I do have an idea, I squeaked. I mean, I have an epic idea to write about an epic trip to the Kingdom Fantasy. I think it'll be exactly what you're looking for. My grandfather thundered. So what are you waiting for? Less thinking, more working. Then he hung up. I put another log onto the flame. Staring at the flames, I thought about a fiery red phoenix. I could have used one of the bird's magical feathers as my pen to write this extra special story. But it was okay. After all, the bird's job wasn't to give me a magical pen. It was to deliver me to the Kingdom Fantasy and to my destiny. After all, now I could return there again and again. I had lost my fountain pen and notebook to my adventure, so I typed away on my laptop. The memories of my travels were so clear, I wrote and wrote and wrote. When I finished, I put the blue ring in my pocket and my jacket, closed my heart, and it reminded me of Blossom and all my friends in the Kingdom Fantasy. It would be ready, and I would be ready to go to the moment's notice to go there and lend a helping paw. So dear readers, I won't say goodbye yet, and I'll see you soon. I know I will have many more adventures in the Kingdom Fantasy. It is my destiny, and as a faithful author and friend, I will make sure to always tell you about all of them. A mouse hug and a cheesy goodbye from your affectionate mouse friend, Geronimo Stilton.